This is the Weigh-In podcast by Benoit Chestnut and normally Sebastian Romero, but he will return at some point. And on today's Weigh-In, we dropped a little sneak peek at the end of Tuesday's boxing UFC Combat Sports Epi that today's talk will be about the Bassett situation. So, more things to say. The weigh-in doesn't always break everything right when it happens because we always give time for the truth to come out. And now that enough time has gone by, we have enough time here to finally break the silence and get it out. So, nonetheless, that is this week's weigh-in. Or, nonetheless, that is this week's Takedown Thursdays. So let's get into it. For those who don't know, there has been some wild stuff going on between Bassett, not really Bo, but more the parents. And I think we already, and I just don't understand. And it just really is something where, okay, this is all great things to Anthony Knox, that all great things happened with Knox. In terms of now that, good endings, everything came out do very well. And I think his father said it best. He said the best thing is sometimes parents have to keep their emotions in check or something. Somebody said something like that. And this Bo Bassett situation, it is a situation because it led to him decommitting from Iowa. And honestly, there's a lot that has gone to it. And this is the best thing, and that's the that is the best thing, that is very well the best thing. So the best thing here is, as I'm gonna get to you through all the noise and all the stuff, I'm gonna get to you. So my first takeaway was, okay, I think that, every with all things going, I think it was like, I think it's more of a, okay, they're trying to do what everybody else is doing. And okay, Keegan Bassett said this: all we wanted is what every other top program has done for their commits. We didn't want anything special or fancy, but just simply what every other college offered to their guys that were committed. That's Keegan Bassett's statement. And I'm going to break it down for you guys right now. They're wrong. All you ever wanted is what every other top program has done for their commits. Well, first off, you're, every other program. So now you don't want it because it'll be a great training aspect for you. You want it simply because every other college is doing it. And you're like, well, why am I not doing it? And, joining a why not type of movement is never a good thing. You didn't want it because you think it was the best opportunity. His brother says it best. We want it what every other college, every other top program has done for their commits. Well, you have to understand, you're the, as far as I'm concerned, Bo Bassett was the highest sought after recruit of the class, and to go turn around and then be like, all right, well, we want to train at Hawkeye Wrestling Club. But if I'm not concerned, if if I'm correct here, you know, he was already, doing the senior level Greco stuff without already being in Hawkeye Wrestling Club. He was already competing at a high level without Hawkeye Wrestling Club. Why is it all of a sudden where every other recruit starts being allowed to, train and wrestle in the wrestling club? And now all of a sudden he's like, oh, yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, I want to do it. And now you've got people saying Tom Brands has made the biggest mistake. Tom Brands has done nothing wrong, and I'm gonna bring it back the same way we did when we talked about UNC, and I'm gonna give UNC some credit here. You know, Iowa has a legacy. Iowa has enough All Americans that they don't need. You saw the way the guys they picked up. Iowa doesn't need Bo Bassett. They don't need Bo Bassett. They would like to have Bo Bassett, but that's not something Iowa needs. Iowa does not need the amount of sheer full talent that has come out of Iowa. Do look at some of those Iowa greats. Bo Bassett's coming into Iowa like, hey, I'm gonna be a Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee is a once in a generation talent that you don't get that everywhere. You don't get that where a guy goes to, you know, goes and becomes a 4-time All American. Really should have been a 4-time national champion. If it wasn't for that COVID year, I think Spencer would have been a 4-time national champion. Really just a lot of injuries, but Spencer Lee's a once in a generation lifetime, talent. The same thing about Gable Steveson. You don't get that. I mean, but more or less about Spencer, and why I'm going to give North Carolina credit. When they went out and they had a problem with AJ Ferrari, she just said, he's bad for business. They didn't make as big as a ruckus as what's going on with this Iowa. Like everybody's like, oh my God, Bassett has decommitted from Iowa. Oh, Brands is wrong. How many national champs has Brands had? Brands got team trophies before this. He has, he got his COVID team trophy or the team trophy during that COVID years. You're telling me that, oh, he simply loses Bassett, that this is, something to go on. And right now we're breaking it down off of what the brother said. So to say all you wanted, so, what you wanted, because I'm confused because now you're telling somebody how to kind of do their job almost. Because I'm looking at this like, okay, his thing said all we wanted, not all we asked for. So it's definitely, see, that's where I'm breaking it down here. Where now we're starting to understand how this came about. And when you break down the brother's message, you don't say it's some mistake. No, it's that right there is how we got to Brand saying, or how we got this decommit. You say all we wanted. Had he said all we asked for was to be able to train in the club, and now you're saying all we wanted, when you put something that you say all you wanted, so you kind of it's almost in that sense, like you're prancing around, like I want you to do this, or I want is not a form of an asking word. I want is more of a telling. Everybody, I always relate this to childhood at most. Everybody knows when, you're getting up, or if you're an athlete, non-athlete, I'm going to break it down for both of you. For our non-athletes that like watching this, you ever know where your parent says to you, I want you to do this. I want you to do your homework now. I want you. You ever think where you're an athlete and you have, a strict, more parent athlete, and you say, hey, I want you to go do a mile. I want you to go do a mile. He's not saying, can you do a mile? He's not saying, do you wanna? He's saying, I want. So when you say all we wanted, we means, okay, so when you say we, are you talking about Bo and your parents, or are you talking about Bo plus you? Because I'm wondering, were they now trying to get Keegan in the club? Keegan. Were they trying to now get Keegan in the club as well? So this is what I mean. The Wayne's gonna ask those tough questions. Were they trying to get Keegan? Because it says we. We is in turn saying me and him, we, started a podcast. Okay, that's you and another person. So we, when you say we, you're talking about that whole family. And are you saying that you were trying to get Keegan in there? Because then that's you can't do that. Keegan's not formally committed to Iowa. And everybody to look and say Tom Brands dropped the ball. Tom Brands didn't drop the ball. Because you say, how did Tom Brands drop the ball, but he gets Dean Peterson? He gets Sammy Alvarez. Like, okay, he dropped the ball. He ain't dropped the ball. He ain't dropped the ball. I'm going to come and give you the truth. I'm going to come and give you the truth. Well, speculated truth, not the real truth, speculated truth. Look at all the guys that are at Iowa right now that are coming up the next season. And tell me that you didn't think Bo was afraid of being redshirted. Think about that. So now all of a sudden you start a problem because you're walking up there and you got Dean Peterson that's probably training around there. You don't problem. You got Dean Peterson training around there. You got Sammy Alvarez training around there. You got what is a really big, stacked, looking good Iowa lineup. And then you're coming in as a freshman, and more than likely he's afraid he's going to be redshirted. You say, wow, Bo's way better than those guys. Listen, everybody can believe they're at the top of their game. They're at the top of the totem till you get to college wrestling. Nicholas Suriano was undefeated in high school. Anthony Ashno, undefeated in high school. When they got to college, they weren't 4-time state champs. I mean, excuse me, they weren't 4-time national champs. They weren't. It's no rhetoric defense to those guys, but they weren't. They weren't. It's very few that can go and capture 4 titles. And, I won't go into any others. I know that there have been more in history, but we're going to stick to just 4 right now. We're not going to talk any others. And one of the craziest things is so you're going to prance around like you are, you're expecting Spencer Lee treatment. That's what we're going to call it, the Spencer Lee treatment. And you just can't come around and be like, oh, yeah, I want this, I want that, I want this. I want to train in Hawkeye Wrestling Club. Not, can I train in Hawkeye Wrestling Club? It's just very, to whether what went wrong or not, I'm not putting that on Brands. Brands has been a coach for a long time, and I don't think one moment has defined him. Everybody made it, oh, you want Bassett, you want Bassett. Listen, Brands closed in Spencer Lee. Spencer Lee had a lot of good offers. Spencer Lee could have very well ended up at Penn State, didn't he? Ended up at Iowa. So you talk about, Brands fumbling the bag. No, he didn't. I'm gonna stop everybody right there. Brands didn't fumble no bag. The Bassets are coming making wants, not asking for requests, wants. Because the brother says all we want is what every other top program has done for their commits. So now you're telling them almost in a sense, oh, well, you got Cornell that has done stuff for their guys. You got, you need to be doing it for us. Brands doesn't need to be doing nothing. Every school has a different model to the way they want to work. And right now it's a market where Cael Sanderson rules college wrestling, and everybody's trying to build the next biggest team. So when Cael Sanderson, I'm going to say if, because I'm giving Cael a lot of credit right now. If Cael Sanderson ever falls and doesn't get a team trophy, which he has in the past decade not gotten, but it's very few. If Cael Sanderson falls and you get him back-to-back years without no team trophy, every school's trying to change their model and line themselves up so that they can have that top spot. And to sit here and say all you wanted is, and then to turn around and decommit and I applaud Brands for not taking anything for this, for going and handling it the way he needed to do it, to say, what needed to be said. So to go and just make it more than what it is, it's different from that. And then turning around and taking your other teammate and telling him like, "Oh yeah, I'm out of there, so I don't think you want to go there." Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not saying he ever said that to his teammate, but you went to the same school. You don't think that there wasn't a weigh in on that? I just think that they ultimately they got themselves involved, and if that was something, here's my thing, and I'm gonna say it's right up front, and I'm gonna break it down for you guys so you'll understand it. If that was an issue up front, why did you commit to Iowa to begin with? Because it wasn't an issue. You weren't asking that question because you didn't want that, because you didn't see everybody else doing it and say, okay, this is, hey, his brother said it himself. This is stuff that people, if they try to comment on my video and argument it, no. A lot of times when I bring a big fact, I bring it with facts, and the facts here is that post of Keegan Bassett. All we wanted is what every other top program has done for their commits. Why is that what you said? Did you say that in the beginning when you were going to commit? Yeah, I would love to train a Hawkeye Wrestling Club, leading up to me coming to school. Is that what he said? No, he did not say that. So part of me kind of feels like you're going and you're saying stuff like that, but you're getting at where I'm getting at. This isn't something that just happened. This is something that was already there. This is something that I'm already seeing. This is something that, okay, you saw every other kid, going to their wrestling clubs and being able to compete left and right. And then you're like, I want to be part of the movement. And you know why? Because you're afraid everybody else is going to get better. That's what that's about. You're afraid everybody's going to get better. And many can disagree with me on this, on some of my opinionated facts here. But, you know, the facts at front hand can't lie. The brother's message, the brother's post cannot lie. If that wasn't the case, I think in terms, I'm gonna go far fetched like everybody's going at brands. I'm gonna go with the Bassetts. You got to watch what you post, because now you're telling everybody brands is the fumble here, but you're saying now your brother's putting out things that all we wanted. Does that include you? You're not committed to Iowa, dude. To kind of sit here and say, oh, what we wanted was to be able to train. First of all, I think this is, you got to understand that, there's a time when you're a parent and a coach. Parent and a coach. And I'm going to leave you guys with that before I answer it, because, a lot of times some of you will reach out to me and say you like that thinking model of, hey, let me think, listen to that first before you get into your response. So that is something I'm going to do, is I'm going to wait to give my response till you get some thinking. But nonetheless, I really think that this is just to come in and say that Brands is wrong for this. And, I give it best. This is coming straight from the head coach. And I don't understand why we have so many outside fingermints trying to tell head coaches how to do their jobs. And it started with UNC, but UNC was kind of somebody who was of the program, kind of said, hey, I kind of look here and say, okay, just because you're committed, that doesn't give you the right to, I don't know. I don't know. And this is the key stuff. This is the key here. You know, he mentioned he believed it wasn't the right fit, but here's where I'm gonna ding him. He talked all about when he committed Iowa. Iowa's gonna be the best thing. I love it. I'm ready for Iowa. It is the best fit for me. Now you're just going and you're throwing things out there because you didn't get your way. So now he's gonna look for a school where he can get his way. And I think that that's just Don't look at Brands as the problem here. That's going to be no matter where the kid goes, he's going to be wanting to do that. I just think to say it's all Brands, no way. He got Spencer Lee. He landed Spencer. So to sit there and say that Brands had fumbled the bag, I don't think there was any bag fumbling by Tom Brands. I think Tom Brands did exactly what he needed to do. And if that meant that Bo Bassett doesn't want to be there anymore, well, so be it. You can't walk in and turn around and expect certain things and want certain things in certain ways, and they tell you no. It's simple. You got told no and you didn't like it. That's as simple as it gets. It's very simple. No, and you look at everything, and you look at everything in it. Crazy, crazy. It's so crazy to see that's the partake in the situation, and then his parents had a lot of involvement, and you're like, well, he's got pretty good other options. A lot of people talked about Penn State, they talked about Okie State, but I think I think determining on what went on here, I think it could possibly be problematic because you can't. If that was something, then you should have asked Iowa that from the get go. And then this is even crazier. We can't just ding Bassett here. Melvin Miller also was involved in that, but then turns around and said he removed Iowa from his list. So you didn't officially commit to Iowa. Now you want to train in their wrestling club? Like, what sense does that make? Does that make sense? That you're gonna allow an athlete in an insight without them like fully committing or going to your school? First of all, look at the way Bassett, as soon as he didn't get his answer, he decommitted. That's probably the exact reason why they were told no, they won't be in the room. There's a secrecy to Iowa wrestling. I understand that there's a huge secrecy to Iowa wrestling. The guys that have gone to these other schools are dead set commits that there's no way they change their mind. Bassett gets told no, and he's up in like, I decommitted from Iowa. Nah, I just when I look at this, when I look at this, I look at this just like this. Lot of posts swirling around. Nah, you know, I think when you really talk about that, I really think it's just really. I really think I'm not in terms of everything. It's just real detuned because Gilman left Hawkeye Wrestling Club. He says Gilman left there, and we all know Gilman left there. And you talk about that, but Bassett to come in and be like, all right, yeah, you're gonna be able to do me, and then you say I'm decommitting from Iowa. I didn't think it was the best fit for me because you got told no. Well, that might be exactly why you got told no. You want Melvin Miller in there, who, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think had committed to Iowa yet, and said he wanted to commit there, or in other words, he was gonna commit there. But now you're just turning around saying, okay, get us in the wrestling club, get us in here, get us in there. But the biggest thing I looked at is that brothers thing, all we wanted. So it kind of seemed like they were trying to not only get Bassett in there, but his brother too. And I just kind of think that there's no backbone on Iowa. It doesn't matter. That's like saying when Carol Sanderson missed out on Bassett, he's still going to get another team trophy. He's still going to get another team trophy. It's just one of those things where I don't particularly agree with a lot of people saying, Iowa fumbled this stuff. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. And I just don't. And just to like break it down even further, I think the added role is okay. As a parent, I can understand, you know, left and right from the mom. And a lot of you are not going to agree with me, but I don't understand it from the dad. You cannot get yourself involved in this because you coached your son. Now's the time where somebody else is going to take over, and you really can't let that fuel the thing and be like, oh well, if they're not going to let you train there, don't even commit there. It kind of just it boils down to me. You can't have your way, so you don't want to go there. And like I said earlier, you're expecting Spencer Lee treatment when you're not Spencer Lee. You're not. You're really not. You're just not Spencer Lee. You're not. I just kind of feel like you're not. And to just turn around and do all of that. That's kind of why I feel like it's like, hey, you're not Spencer Lee. You know, will you become a couple time national champ? Yeah, very, very well. I definitively believe that Bo Bassett will get a couple national titles, whether that's 2, 3. I do believe he's going to get some, but to prance around and say, okay, you need to do this, Iowa is not going to do it. Iowa's not going to do it. They've have legacy behind. They build athletes left and right. I think this boiled down to he wanted to be in that Hawkeye Wrestling Club room because you're seeing all these other schools do it, all these other kids do it, and you're like, wow, what if they get better than I am because now they have the resources of a school. But you see, the minute he got told no, he didn't go, all right, like, let me just wait till I get to school. No, he up and decommits because he can't have it right. And everybody's like, unbelievable that Hawkeye went and set up the resources for them. Listen, Hawkeye don't have to set up nothing. They don't have to set up nothing. You know, Hawkeye is not going to change their ways just because all these other schools are doing something. Well, that is them, and that is their choice. And Tom Brands' choice is no, you will not be training in our wrestling club and stuff like that. Like, no, you will not. And it just got taken out of proportion and to heart. And also there was a bigger issue here. Um, wow. I feel like we done got to the end already. There was a bigger issue, and the compliance. Compliance. They talked about something, this is a Google it yourself kind of thing coming out, to whether that's they talked about compliance. compliance, not being able to pay the travel left and right for the Bassett to come up there and train, for Bo Bassett to come up there and train. And first of all, it you can't do you can't. And to go and not have things certain ways, Brands is not going to get itself in a violation and cost the university money just so one kid can come up and do what he wants to do. And second of all, I said he's no Spencer Lee. I will stick by that. Spencer Lee wasn't training at Hawkeye when he was coming up. Spencer Lee wasn't. I get it's a new movement, but he's no Spencer Lee. I'm sorry, but Bassett's no Spencer Lee. You're not a senior world team member right now. You're not, you're not at the top of the totem. Like I get it. You were a top sought after recruit, but is it worth Iowa going and potentially breaking compliance issues and busting time for somebody the minute he got told no, decommitted? It's going to be the same thing. So if Tom Brand says, I think you should redshirt, no, I'm out of here. I'm not redshirting. That's the stuff I'm talking about. So Iowa handles that the best way possible, and in any way, I stand with Iowa. They did what they had to do. If you think you can walk in and start complacing and telling coaches this is what they're going to get because all the other schools are doing it, my kid's better. Well, if you're so worried about this and that, his father coaches him. You can't do all the work. You're worried about other coaches getting involved and doing something. Nonetheless, if you can't expect to put everything all on these schools, and now with everything going left and right, you can't always expect certain things. And I just think this is not on Brands. This is on the parents and the Bassetts. And if that's the way they're going to walk themselves around, I think it's not going to be much different with Cale Sanderson, But I can't speak for Cale. I can't speak for any of the other schools, but I'm speaking to the nature of this situation right here. And always at the end, when you watch this, please remember, if you're unsure of what I say, Google it. I provide my opinion unless it is the comment of the brother. That is like Keegan Bassett, a lot of times I'll put out my disclaimer that, I try to stay as accurate as I can, but that doesn't mean I'm 100% always accurate on the stuff I talk about. So even then, that's just what I'm saying. But I stand with Iowa on this, that, Bassett can't come around and expect you're going to get this and that. You're not that this and that type of guy. You're not. You're not. You're coming in like you're going to be a Spencer Lee of the world, and everybody's lining up like, oh, I want to do what Bo's been doing. I want to do what Bo's been doing. No, you want to do what PJ Duke is doing. He takes out Yanni. Like, that's what you want to be doing. And to come out and just think that you're above anything else. And just because you're the biggest recruit and you're bringing somebody else, another teammate, that, oh, Brands has just got to do whatever you say. No, he does not. No, he does not. That is his team. That is their school. You don't get to walk in there and prounce around like this is what you get to do because your dad was the coach in high school and did everything for you. I'm sorry, but this is college wrestling. This ain't a candy store. It's college wrestling. This is the big show. It's college wrestling. And to come in and play those little boy games, even as parents to come and do that, go somewhere else and do it. Because Iowa's not going to stick up for it. And Iowa's always been like that over the year. They've never allowed anybody to come in that Hawkeye and train before they've committed. Never. Never. That's never been something they did. So why would you think now they would turn around and do it for you if they've never done it before? And if that was this big of an issue, like I pointed out, why even commit there? Because it wasn't. It wasn't an issue till everybody else did it. And you're like, uh-oh, they could possibly get better than I am. Well, maybe I need to start doing this. Let's see if they'll do this for me. It wasn't an issue. If it was that big of a thing you wanted to do, then you would have. But every other school's doing it. Now you want to do it. Save it. I think Brands did the right thing. Like some are saying, should he retire? Absolutely not. Look at how many All-Americans he's had. Look at how many great things has happened. And before you turn around and say, yeah, well, Thomas Gilman lost to Darian Cruz. Upsets happen. And you'll probably say Spencer Lee, same thing. But listen, Not every school, not all those schools over there get four-timers. And there's a lot of schools that don't have a lot of All-Americans. And I'll give you, I'll leave you with this. I think even UNC had a better mindset than the Bassets are acting right now. And that's crazy to say. That's crazy. But nonetheless, this is The Weigh In by Benoit Chestnut and normally Sebastian Romero. He'll return at some point. Like, comment, subscribe, share. I'm always going to provide you my opinion on these big stuff that goes left and right, because it's that stuff that, really gets me going, that everybody's at one person for this and that. Like I said, this is the big show. This is college wrestling. And Iowa, they were, as I always called it, the trench report of the draft. Iowa was drafting well, so he can go ahead and go to somewhere else. If he ends up at Aoki State that we always talk about, great. You become 3-time, 4-time national champ for us. I'm just a fan of Oki, but great. That would be a great thing. But if you're gonna do the same thing you did at same thing you're gonna do, if you did the same thing you're gonna start doing over at Iowa, good luck for whatever school he goes to next. I just hope, first and foremost, Iowa did the right thing, and in terms of the Bassett family, they thought they were doing the right thing that they thought was to be right by their son. You can't ever be upset with that, but it's just in the way you handle some stuff. And I think we can all learn from every situation in terms of this. I think this season, this year, there has been a lot of parent interaction left and right with the athletes, and that's just everywhere, all around. But nonetheless, that is this week's weigh-in. I don't really care if many don't agree with me with this at all. Weighing out.